Hey gang, welcome back to the channel. Today was an exciting day here at the job. We had the counters installed.
Woo!
They did not want to be videoed, but I'm going to show you what they did for us. So this was a little different countertop installation than most of you are probably familiar with. They do not come out and make templates, go back to a shop, fabricate the stone, and then bring it back to the house. They bring it right here in one trip and they fabricate it and install it in one day. They got here at 10:15 and it's 2:15, so less than 4 hours they did these 4 pieces. So the island stone, the island piece, comes with a piece around the perimeter already. You can get under there and show them, Jordan. So this was on all 4 sides of this piece. But they clipped the corners for us and they filled that in for us. Look how nice that looks.
Looks great.
Yep. And this is the factory width, 42 inches. But they cut it this dimension for us and did the same infill right here, I guess you could call it. They added this piece and they cut it out for our range. And then over here, we only have one seam on the whole project. It's right here. It's great. And then they also, I'm going to come around the front of you, they also cut out for the farm sink while they were here. All that was done on site.
It's impressive.
Yep.
Did a good job.
They did a great job. So we're just going to keep right on rolling, and we're going to get this faucet installed so they can actually use the sink today. This is what we bought. A Dalmo. It's got a sensor on it, hands-free, DAK F5F. I think we're ready to go.
Let's go.
All right.
It's hard to say, F5F.
It is. So I've already put the O-ring right here.
Does that come separate?
It does. It comes in a little bag with these washers.
All right.
And that forms the seal between the faucet and the counter. You don't need any silicone, any putty, anything like that. That's your seal. It also comes with this plate if you're doing an existing installation where you have 3 holes for the old faucet. This would cover these 2.
That's nice.
Yep, we don't need it. We'll set it aside. And our first step is to simply feed these. Well, we have 4 water lines and 1 electrical connection. Feed them through one at a time. In here. Now these handles go on the right. I've seen them in the front and I've seen them on the left. I mean, that works, but that means hot is towards you. You see the color code on the handle there?
Yes, sir.
And that's fine if that's the way you want it. And that's fine if that's the way you want it. But it goes this way, especially for this model, because here's your sensor.
Right.
So it has to go that way. So I'm going to ask Jordan to put a hand on that. I'm going to get underneath. So this is the order they go in. The rubber washers first, then the steel washer, and then this washer. So you can see how it's threaded here. That threads onto the bottom of the faucet. We'll get it hand tight, and then we'll tighten these screws, and it pulls everything together. And these 2 screws, when we tighten them, they will bear down and tighten against this steel washer.
Sweet.
Just like that. Much easier than the type with a nut, and you need a basin wrench or something else to get under there. And we're going to put our disposal in last, so it gives me some room here. There we go. And on this one, I can pass them through this slot. All right, I'm going to get under there a little more. Oh, that's way up there. All right, this is the box that controls when the water comes on and off. So this is water in, water out, and the electric or the sensor cable goes right here. So I think I'm going to put the hoses on there first, and then that will tell me where I can mount this thing. Looks like it's just a click. Yep.
Oh, nice.
That? Yep. Easy.
Woo.
And then we've already put our batteries in there.
I was watching Back to the Future 2 last night, and we don't have flying cars in 2020, but we got click connectors.
That's a great movie. All right. Yeah, that can go anywhere right there. We have plenty of hose.
All right. You need some screws?
Yep. And the, actually I'll hold it if you can attach it. We mounted our control box, everything's hooked up. We put our weight for the spray hose on. This line is marked with a blue mark, you see that? So that's cold. This one's marked with red, so that's hot. I think we're ready to go.
Looks good.
Yep.
Want to check for leaks?
I'm going to turn these, well, yep. Let me put this bucket under there. Now our hose went up in there a little bit, so I'm just going to push up on it from underneath and grab it. And before we connect this, where the strainer is, we're going to turn the water on to flush everything out. See everything in the sink?
Yeah.
Some more. All right, so before we get that sensor dialed in, we're going to hook up the disposal on the drain because it needs to run for 3 minutes and we need the drain hooked up. So let's get this done real quick. I've already got this set up, the cords on it, and we've got the plug in there knocked out. Just go back and watch our disposal video on this. We've got all kinds of information on there. It's a great video. So I think we're ready just to put this up. Okay, we're all hooked up. We've got our water on, our drain is connected. So this is the dishwasher plug, disposal on a switch. That's our control box for the faucet. We got cold to the faucet, hot coming down to the dishwasher, and hot going up to the faucet. And then back here you'll notice this is a cast iron fitting in the original house plumbing, and then this is a brass trap adapter. So I used a metal slip joint nut on those metal threads instead of a plastic one. Let's give it a test, Jordan. I'm going to pull that stopper and I'll check for leaks. Okay, we're good, man.
Cool.
And so we've got the dishwasher running. We'll test it when it goes into its drain cycle, and that'll be it. Good job. All right, gang, we have the sink installed, and today we're going to install the backsplash. So come on down here, I'll show you what we're going to be installing. Satori Avenue Oyster Gray Glossy. We bought 5 boxes. And come over here, Jordan. This is what we're going to use to adhere it. A pre-mixed adhesive. There's no waste, no weighting, and I've never used it before, so we're going to try it.
Cool.
I've already done a test piece. This is the size trowel I want. When I say a test piece, I spread some thin set, I put the tile in, I peeled it up, and I looked at my coverage on the back, and this one works fine.
Are we making wooden cover plates now, custom?
Yeah, custom wood cover
New
plates.
business idea?
Yeah. So let me show you what these are about. So we use these adjustable depth boxes on backsplashes and other places, but see how that works? So if you have a tile like this, or a 1/2-inch tile, or whatever you're using, you can adjust that perfectly so you don't have a big gap here between the cover plate and the box. So what happened to me on a job a long time ago, the tile setters came in and did this, and they completely covered that box with the tile, and I couldn't use that feature of that box. The other thing that happens is they'll usually leave you room for these 2 holes right here for your devices. But what happens is they put it so close, you put this device in there, then you don't have room for this screw for the cover plate. And so many times I've had to get in there with a cold chisel or even a grinder and try to grind that out to make room for this screw. So what these plates do, you can see this one's already attached. It does all the math for you. All you have to do is put the tile against there. There's room for the screw, and the cover plate covers all the edges of the tile. And that's basically the idea of it. I cut them with a little bit of a, I don't know if you can see that, a little bit of an angle coming this way, just so they don't get trapped in there. They're easy to get out. I actually sent these to FastCap. Check out fastcap.com. This was back in the early 2000s. I sent these to Paul over there. He actually called me about it. He loved the concept, but just didn't think there was a market for it. And of course I had to agree, but you can make these, and I think that's it. And one more little tip. So we have everything protected. We're gonna put our thin set on here. And we're gonna peel off this piece of tape. And then put our tile down like that. And we're still protecting the counter here from the grout that's to follow. The reason we don't do it like that is this is really hard to get out. If you've ever tried to do that, and you're getting in there with a knife and trying to get little pieces of tape. That's why we do it that way. So we're ready to go. I've got you set up outside with the saw. I'm going to start on thin set, and let's go. Hey gang, so here's the backsplash tile all done. Let's show you a few things. So on this left hand edge we put this piece of trim. This is Schluter trim. Just finishes off the cut edges of the tile nicely. And then you can see our wooden plates we made, how that worked. And then we just cut around the window stool or the sill right here. Looks great. It's gonna look awesome when it's grouted. And then that's all been painted since the last time you saw it.
Yeah.
It came out awesome. Yeah, make sure you go back and watch our video about how we got this level when this was way out of level. And then over here, a little tip that you do in the corners. The tiles are 12 inches long. So this is an 8 and this is a 4. And this is a 4 and that's an 8. And that's a full tile and a full tile. Just gives the illusion that the tiles are wrapping around the corner. And then working over here, we weren't sure what to do behind the fridge, so we just ran the tile back about 6 inches back here, so it looks like they continue on. And then I even went one down here. So when the new refrigerator, which is actually larger, is pushed back, all you'll see is tile here. And we think that's going to look great. So let's come over here in the dining room. And we're going to start grouting right here. But before we start grouting, I believe I misspoke yesterday when I said that we used thin set to attach this. That pre-mixed tile adhesive in the bucket is a mastic. The only thing I'm comfortable using a mastic for is backsplashes in kitchens and like this dining room. I would never use a mastic in a bathroom for anything, and I would never use it on a floor. Just make sure you read the directions and you're using the appropriate product for your application. So right now, let's get started. We have the grout already mixed. This is what we're using. Mapei Caracolor, what is that? U? Unsanded grout.
Yeah.
And this comes pre-mixed also, but I already had this, so we're gonna use it.
Cool.
So let's get going. Time's a wasting. Hey guys, we're loving the Backsplash. You may have seen us in the time lapse using a Scotch-Brite pad to remove a lot of the excess grout. That was a tip that someone commented about, so we tried it and it works great. It removes the bulk of the grout without overwatering this grout, right? Overwatering is you're getting this too wet with your sponge. So the Scotch-Brite removes the bulk of it, and then we went back over it with a sponge a couple times, and our final step was a microfiber towel. We just picked it up at one of the home centers in the tile tool section and polished it, and that was it. The next day there was no haze on it, so that was a great tip. We appreciate that. You can also see we've got most of our electrical already done. So this ground fault protects these. We've got the switch for our disposal and our lighting here, and I saved one for you. But before we get into that, let's talk about these guys right here. So this is going to be a ground fault that protects the receptacles on the island. So we're going to show you how to install that. But first, let's take a look at the back of these. So on this ground fault, here's the ground, and then sometimes I see this wire wrapped around that screw, but you don't have to. Can you see that plate? That's a clamp. I call it a clamping plate, and the wire goes straight under just like that, and then you tighten the screw. Now it would work fine if you put it on top and wrapped it, but that's what that little plate is for, just like that. And on the back there are these holes, and I'm going to put it on the right one. The white goes on the silver, and when you tighten that, there's a backing plate inside that tightens and grabs the wire, and that's the way I do it. And you could also side wire it under the screw. So this is back wired, this is side wired, wrapped under the screw. Now on this receptacle, you see these holes here? This one? That is not the same as this. We call this a push and pray. You push the wire in, you pray that it holds. This is 12 gauge wire. That hole is meant for 14 gauge, and you simply push it in, and there's a little spring, you can just see it, that grabs the wire. And in fact, down here it says for push wire use solid 14 gauge on a 15 amp circuit only. Screw terminal, this one, use 14 or 12 gauge. So I just want to show you the difference between side wired, back wired, and a push-in receptacle, and different ways to wire it. And the other thing about these, almost every receptacle is going to have a strip gauge on it. See that? And it says strip gauge, and that's how much you strip the wire. That way you don't get any shiners. So what a shiner is, that's a shiner. When you have conductor showing right here, you want it all the way in. And on this one, there's also a strip gauge right here. So just a little tip. So let's go up here and take this off. I've already moved these two screws, and then I drove a drywall screw in there just to give me a little handle. And went around it with the knife. Perfect. See how clean that is? And now I have I've got plenty of room for my box to come in and out. Let's go ahead and wire it. All right. So during rough in, that's our line. The electricians labeled that line, and this should be load. And it is. So the reason that the line side has wire nuts on it and the load side does not is because this is a home run back to the panel. The circuit is off, but if someone were to turn it on, then this would be hot. And the difference between a line and a load, the way you can remember it, is this. Line and load. what's that word right there?
In.
Input. That's 120 volts in. This is 120 volts. This O is for out. Output or out. This feeds everything downstream. So on the back of the receptacle, it says line for these two. It's very clearly marked with arrows, and load for these two. So my line goes up here, black on the brass, white on the silver, and load goes down here, black on the brass, white on the silver, and a common ground. If all you have is a line, it just goes here on the line side. You just leave these blank. So let's put this in real quick. Let's see. Now we talked about using the regular size, but just because of our tile layout, you come over here, I think that looks better with this going up past the grout. So we're going to use the mid-size anyway. And it just depends on the box you're using. But it's just so nice to be able to put that on there and not have to worry about hitting tile with this cover plate screw. All right, that's it. We'll go turn the circuit on and test it. But that's going to be a wrap for this video. If you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button for us. If you haven't subscribed already, we would really appreciate you doing that. Hit that notification bell. You'll get a reminder, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yes, sir.